Hallo und herzlich willkommen bei Passives Einkommen mit Peer-to-Peer. Und heute gibt es mal wieder ein Interview und zwar mit Peerberry und der Aventus Group und zwar mit den jeweiligen CEOs Arunas und Andreas. Und primär geht es in diesem Interview um die Frage, warum Peerberry eigentlich so gut durch die Krise gekommen ist, wenn man sich das mal im Vergleich zu den anderen Peer-to-Peer-Plattformen anschaut. Das ganze Video ist in Englisch, allerdings gibt es am Wochenende eine Aufarbeitung der wichtigsten Dinge auf meinem Blog mit einem Blick auf mein eigenes Portfolio. Und ansonsten findest du wie gewohnt alle Timestamps zu den einzelnen Fragen unter dem Video in der Beschreibung. Und ja, wenn dir das Video gefallen hat, dann like es doch bitte, damit es ein bisschen sichtbarer wird. Und abonniere auch gerne den Kanal, wenn du keine Videos mehr verpassen willst. Und damit wünsche ich dir jetzt nun viel Spaß beim Interview. So, welcome everybody to our interview session with Peerberry and the Aventus Group. So guys, I have prepared a lot of questions coming from my community and myself. But before we start, guys, can you introduce yourself? I think we don't see you so often, both in the internet. So I guess your faces are not so well known as the ones from other CEOs. So it would be great if you can introduce yourself very shortly.
Hello, I'm Arunas. I'm a CEO of Peerberry company.
And I'm Andreas Trofimovas. I'm CEO of Aventus Group.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, you are from Peerberry and Aventus. Can you tell us first a little bit more about the owners of Peerberry? So who is it? And as far as I heard, there are two owners from Lithuania, right?
Yes, right. Owners of Peerberry is two private persons who has experience in the financial sector. Also, I could probably it's good to know for the investors that Peerberry was created by Aventus Group, and for that reason we are partners from the beginning. But after that, Aventus decided to sell this platform to two private persons from Lithuania. Yeah.
Okay, so that means Peerberry was created by Aventus Group, and what was the reason?
I can explain. There were some reasons. First of all, the main reason was to separate two businesses, and this was extremely a good solution because, first of all, later Peerberry joined several more loan originators from outside, and it made Peerberry a much bigger platform than it was before. Just in comparison with situation, if it will be only for Aventus Group needs only, right? Then it gave additional stability. So the Peerberry, of course, because Peerberry joins only really strong loan originators like us, or Go or at home. You know, this is separate business still. So we want to be concentrated only on lending, and we are professional there. And the Peerberry is still, this is only the tool for funding of our business or business of some other groups. That's all.
Okay. So, but the Aventus Group was one of the first loan originators on Mintos before, right?
Yes, that's true. In the beginning, we were there, but with very small volumes in the beginning. Then later, we understand that it's very complicated actually to work with external platform. Then we establish our own. We work with it. Later on, we sold for several investors just to. But of course, we have some agreements with them to be guaranteed that our loans are like in priority on this platform.
Yeah. So, and obviously, it works very good for you with the Peerberry platform. So why you are operating from Lithuania, but your company is registered in Latvia, right?
Yeah, actually, when the company was established in Latvia, you probably know that all biggest platforms also established in Latvia. It depends on regulation and clear regulation of this country for establishing such platforms. So it was decided to work from Latvia, but after that, all management was found in Lithuania, and we now working because all team is Lithuanians. We're working from Lithuania, HQ office.
Mm-hmm. But this business model itself, so this marketplace model, is prohibited in Lithuania, right?
I would say not prohibited, but it's much more complicated than it is in Latvia. That's why this model was chosen in Latvia. It's not forbidden. I mean, there is like Savi or some other platform here, but it's much more complicated, and the model is not like we use here for PeerBerry. So it's much more convenient working from Latvia. That's why many of companies are registered there.
Yeah, I think the other companies issuing the loans by themselves, right? It's not a marketplace like you.
Yes, you are right.
Yeah. So at this time, it's a very important point is the security, especially after we saw what happened on Group here in Latvia. So the next big topic is the security. And one point there is your group guarantee. So how is it handled? For example, we saw recently on Mintos that they also offered one with the Finco group. And now there's one part of this group is down, but they try to recover now the money first before they are using the group guarantee. So how do you would handle this if something happened with some of your smaller companies the same way? So you try to recover first the company itself before you activate this group guarantee, or what is the plan behind this?
Very good question. Thank you for it. I just want to say that for us, as you see, the crisis is over, right? So now saldo of every day is positive on PeerBerry, right? So PeerBerry collects much more money than Aventus or Fingo other players need, right? And you know, interest rate on PeerBerry is less than on Mintos or other platforms, as you see, right? Still, we have more investments than withdrawals. That's true. Other question is that we need to look to the history, right, of this COVID virus, right? PeerBerry was, I would say, the only platform who was paying investors on time. You know it, right?
Yes.
So everybody knows that. And by the way, as I wrote in the article before, you saw that our balances were record high during all this period. That's why we paid immediately, actually, for all investors. So I would say we need to speak about facts, right? So I would say the facts in favor of us here. And speaking about group's guarantee, I would say our situation is different from Mintos. I can explain why. Because for investors, PeerBerry is very tightly, connected with Aventus, right? So in case Aventus faces with problem, PeerBerry immediately faced with the same problems, right? So that's why in this situation, we can't afford such situation at all. So that's why we always keep quite significant amount of money, right, of funds to pay investors anytime they want to get this money back, right? And this crisis showed it in the best way, actually, how we handle it. In case of small loan originators, we'll face with problems, and this happens, of course, then we use this money of our financial pillow or money from other bigger profitable companies. And speaking about our reserves, money financial pillow, I can say that you need to remember that last year our profit was very close to 30 million euros, right? And almost all the money were invested to the business, right? That's why all the ratios are, I would say, the healthiest on the market, by the way, if we speak about bigger companies like ours. That's why this is definitely stability for all the investors, and we proved it already.
Okay, but in the past, we didn't saw some problems with the smaller companies of the Aventus Group, right? So everything is fine till this
but
day.
you need to understand that smaller companies, some of them are not profitable. For instance, Kazakhstan. I'll be very honest with you. I mean, the situation in Kazakhstan market is quite problematic, right?
Yeah.
But not any investors faced with any problems at all. Maybe Arunas can comment how much delayed loans do you have on PeerBerry now?
Yeah, on PeerBerry now we have approximately only 10% of the delayed loans, so in late stage.
Even with Kazakhstan. So we're paying back everything. You see us as well. So this is like real numbers, and all the investors see them, right? So, but currently, again, as I wrote in previous article, we have, extremely high reserves of money on the accounts, like close to 8 million. And now a debt of Aventus, like Arunas, what is the debt for today?
It's around 11 million euros.
So you understand, we can cover immediately all the debts just one day, right? But we just don't want to do it because we are still thinking we'll be growing very fast soon, because crisis is over, our customers coming back, and we are growing again, like we were growing before.
Okay, it's really interesting that you said the crisis is over. Do you really think this crisis?
For sure. Yes,
For sure.
absolutely.
Okay.
110% for us, yes. We are already growing and growing, of course, not, how to say, volumes we would like to grow, right? But we are growing. For instance, in all the major market, except I would say Poland and Kazakhstan. This is still a pain for us, but in both markets we have solutions, how to solve the situation. And actually I can say starting from end of June, again, we'll face with significant growth in these two markets as well. And in this situation, all of our markets will be growing again. By the way, we made yesterday a forecast of financial results for this year. We assume that Aventus will finish this year with like 14 or 50 million euros plus, in spite of this huge crisis. So this is our situation.
Okay.
And I'm also wants to add that PeerBerry a few last weeks collecting more deposits when we made withdrawals. So we are second platform in the continental Europe, and now our turnover is already growing. So yeah, everything is really stable in our side too.
Yeah.
And you need to don't forget that PeerBerry offers significantly less interest than other platforms. You know it as well.
That's true. Yeah, you are not tied to
price of stability. Price of stability, I would say. This is price of stability.
Yeah, sure.
You are more guaranteed, you get less. This is normal.
Yeah. So you mentioned your annual reports. That means that the platform is audited. So not only PeerBerry, but also the Aventus Group. Yeah, and the information, if it's audited and the annual reports, is this a free information? So do you have some part on your website with investor relations on the Aventus Group? Or I didn't see it on PeerBerry, so I'm mostly on PeerBerry, but not on the Aventus website. So do you have some part like this?
Maybe I'll start. We'll show reports of every single loan originator belonging to Aventus Group. We didn't do any consolidated reports. This is also true, but we do for every separate, because every separate loan originators take money from PeerBerry. This is our way how we do it.
And about PeerBerry, from the beginning of PeerBerry activity till now, all annual reports is approved by tax authority of Latvia. Every investor can find them in company register centers. Or if we want, we just easily can write an email to me or to our customer support, and we will provide them. It's not a secret at all. Also, as we now in the licensing process, platform will be audited and all annual reports too. So we moving to this direction, yes.
Yeah.
And as Andrei mentioned, yes, we now planning till the end of June to have all reports of our loan originators. Main part of these reports is already audited. So, and we will publish it in our platform.
Yeah, I found the reports from PeerBerry, but the problem is, you said it, it's on a company register, so you have a paywall and you cannot access it. It's not accessible for free. So you have to register.
Okay, I will explain. We easily can send it, and also we are preparing space in our platform, and we will publish it. Yeah, so I think it takes around 2 weeks to us. So yeah, we will do it.
Exactly. I would suggest you to make some part on your website with investor relations, like the big companies have also. So that's the easiest way, and everyone can see it. If it's not a secret, so why not?
It is on development stage now.
It can't be a secret. Can't be a secret. I just can say that.
For sure.
Okay, so we spoke about that PeerBerry was created by the Aventus Group, and so most of the people or most of the investors thought PeerBerry is a marketplace with a lot of diversification. But in reality, we have the Aventus Group and the two others, so Lithome and Cofingo. Do you think the platform is more risky because of a lack of diversification compared, for example, to Mintos? They have 70 loan originators, external loan originators. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this.
I think that this is strength of our platform, because we're working with company groups who is operating more than 10 years. These groups of companies is profit years after years. So we never faced any difficulties, especially in the crisis, to pay back stretch after withdrawal request. We easily can handle all financial reports and situation. We easily can do risk management and planning. So I think it is really good for us to have such strong and big partners.
Yeah, but this means also, for example, just in theory, if the Aventus Group has some serious problems, so yeah, the investors also have serious problems, because 80% of the platforms are the Aventus Group.
Yes and no. In principle, yes, because 80% that's true. But on the other hand, how to say, it's quite difficult to imagine such a situation, because at this moment, Arunas told you that the debt of Aventus is 11 million, on account we have 8 million, right? So, and we have huge assets, by the way. Meanwhile, right, all the companies are profitable with huge portfolios and so on. So quite complicated to understand where we can face with problem, especially after we finished this crisis, which was very cruel, right? And you know that a majority of platforms, like almost everybody, had problems with cash flow, of paying investors back on time and so on. So actually, I know only PeerBury on the market who did it right way the same day. So this is the best proof of stability, you know, and so on.
That's true, but I would say before this crisis, also the airlines couldn't imagine what happened a couple of weeks after the corona hit Europe. So yeah, also something unexpected could happen to everyone, I think. So say never know, I would say.
Never. Yes, you're absolutely right. But again, you know, yeah, if you know how to say, the crisis, you always need to think about crisis, right? Of course, we don't have this crystal ball, right, to say when this crisis come and how it will appear and so on. But you know, again, speaking about this situation, the crisis was really complicated, right? I mean, unexpected, and the volume of this crisis was really significant, right? I would say like kind of 2009, right, in all of our countries. But you know, we managed to handle the situation. And honestly saying, I don't know if such a crisis will come soon, right? So because it was quite deep, and we were very well prepared, because we have kind of philosophy how to be safe for us and for investors. You know, the problem is, if you see to our group, we are different from majority of companies. And why we are different, I can say. From day first, 11 years ago, we were not aimed to become number one on the market. It was not our aim at all. And still, this is not a goal. Our goal to be profitable and to be efficient. That's all. If we see a market with, I don't know, big potential in 10 years or something, this is not interesting for us. We are looking for efficiency from like beginning. That's why we are unique. We were profitable from first year, you know, of activities, and we are profitable every year as a group. So that's why we're not aiming to become number one, because it costs a lot. In majority of markets, we also not going to become number one, because sometimes we are not going to TV because it's very expensive, you know. We are choosing only the most efficient way how to make profit for the group and investors. That's why I think always we'll have a lot of funds, you know, to be safe for investors for us. This is our goal. Other, you know, key is that philosophy of our people working inside of our group, right? I understand that people are absolutely a key of any normal organization. So we are looking for the best, just the best people in every market we can find. I mean, not the most expensive, not the most famous or something. We are looking for the most efficient people on every market, right? So how to say, if you know people working here, they're kind of similar. Work hands-on people, right? Clever, experienced, and so on, so on. So this, for all majority of our management team, this crisis was not the first at all. And you need to understand that a quite big part of our business is in Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Lithuania, for instance. We have this main office here, for us, this is not the first crisis at all. I mean, this region always comes from one crisis to another, right? So all of our people in management are from banks, majority, right? So all of them saw such a situation before several times, not even one, right? So actually, we had a team of extremely experienced people who were like working or born even in such conditions. You understand, right? So for us, it was absolutely a working situation, and we did it like an absolutely right way. Of course, we got a negative result for several months. This is obvious because it was too cruel situation, right? But now, again, we are profitable. So that's the secret.
Okay, so your experience from the last years helped you a lot, I would say.
Everything helped actually, right? But I have very good advice for investors, especially. Everybody need to understand that business or life is like a nature. Sun is not shining always. It's impossible. If you have very good years, several years, you need to understand something will change. Nobody knows what will change, but something will be changed. And this is like the same, I would say, theory helped us to be prepared to this crisis. Of course, we couldn't predict COVID. It was impossible, but we predicted other situations, and we were absolutely right.
So let's close this topic, security, and go to a more easy topic. It's the handling of Peerberry. So we have some questions from the investors about the interface and so on. And one of the most popular question was, will you have some better statistics in the future? Because at the moment it's very simple what we can see on Peerberry. Do you plan to develop some better statistics?
Yes, for sure. And as you saw, we launched a new statistic web page on Peerberry on April. We are already working on development. We also understand that investors want to see more and more statistics about loan originators, about Peerberry activities, and how everything is working. So we are under development, and I think that every week we can add something new and interesting. Yes, for sure. We will have more.
Okay. So the next question is, do you plan a secondary market? And if yes, when do you want to publish this one?
Actually, we developed it, but we now in the process of licensing. And to be honest, we submitted all documents, business plan, policies, and procedures of the platforms to Latvian regulator without secondary market. So now our main priority to get a license and become regulated. And after that, we came back to this topic. Mm-hmm. But until we get the license, we're not planning to launch it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So the next question is, do you plan to publish a smartphone app on Peerberry? We saw it now on some platforms like Mintos, Bondora, and also Via Invest, or is it something for the next years? I think it's really convenient for most of the investors to manage their investment on the smartphone.
Peerberry mobile application is also under development process. We plan to launch it on second quarter of 2020. Mm-hmm. But this, crisis bit postponed it because we focused on smooth operations of Peerberry. But I can promise to investors that till the end of third quarter of this year, we will have a mobile application. We're working on it.
Okay. So the next topic is, we already spoke about this regulation thing. So what is the status about this license in Latvia, and when do you plan to receive this license?
Actually, we submitted application, business plan, and all procedures on April. And as I know, most of the Latvian platforms submitted all documents at the same time. So I'm not hoping to get the license really fast. But I think that it could be till the end of this year. we hope to get the license till the end of the year, and we are closely cooperating with Latvian regulator.
Okay. So can you tell us more, a little bit more about this regulation process to get this Latvian broker license, and how will it add security for investors? I think I saw a plan from Wire Invest that it's pretty complicated. They have to restructure their whole company. How is it on PeerBerry?
Actually, as now everything under process, it's difficult to answer to this question because we just started negotiations with a regulator, how we will work, what we must to change and everything. But I think that for the investors, most important that the full P2P market became regulated, and we don't see such cases of what we had on January or with other platforms when they just been shut down. Also, all platforms and annual reports must be audited. It's also good for the investors. As I also know, some of the investments will be insured till 90%. So it means that if you're investing in the platform and something goes wrong with the platform, all investors can get back the money from the jurisdictions. Yes.
Okay. Do you know this exact amount which is secured?
As I know at the moment, because it also just drafted at the moment, it's if your investment still not exceed 20,000 euros, you will get back around 90% of your investments.
Okay. Okay. So this is an additional layer, security layer for investors.
Yeah, and it's really important, I think. For the
okay, good. So the next part is about the future from PeerBerry and also the Aventus Group. So the first question is, what are your 3 top focus projects for this year on PeerBerry? Obviously, I think one of them is the licensing process, but what are the next?
For sure. It's, let's say, the main priority, the licensing, and all processes related with the license. Next one is also, as I mentioned, a mobile application for the investors. And also we are planning a little bit, not a little bit, but give opportunity to our investors to diversify investments. So we are now working on some new products like business loans. Also, we planning to extend our activities in Asia region. So this is probably 3 main priorities at the moment.
Yeah, I saw that you recently started issuing loans in Vietnam, right?
Yes, right. This is Aventus Group company.
Okay. Do you have also plans for the next market, and where will it be?
Maybe it's a question for the Andrei, and he can explain what we are planning. Yeah.
Speaking about this plan for new markets, only Sri Lanka will appear this year. That's all. I mean, after this crisis, we also understand that efficiency is a key here, right? So, still startups, it's quite expensive to grow until the profitability, and especially in these new unknown markets. So we just decided with management board to be concentrated on the market. We are very strong and we are profitable. So this year we'll be working in markets we are profitable, and we have already companies working there. So honestly saying, from our side, there is nothing new for PeerBerry investors this year, but I can say maybe volumes will be increased. On the other hand, we decided not to develop auto leasing companies in Kyrgyzstan, in Russia, Belarus, because they were small. Thanks God, they were in startup stage before crisis, right? So we didn't lose too much money. Actually, symbolic sums were lost in crisis, just because we were in very, very, very beginning, right? But if these companies would be more developed, then definitely our losses will be significantly higher. So strategy for this year for Aventus is to be concentrated on the market we are in. and be strong where, be efficient, be profitable, and so on. And definitely we'll achieve these goals.
So what are your plans for a sustainable growth? You mentioned that you stopped during the crisis for a couple of weeks issuing loans and watched the situation. How do you prove that this growth of your company is sustainable in the future?
I would say for this year, this is a challenge. I can say because this is not about our situation. We have more than enough money on accounts, just more than enough. No, we don't need so much money actually. But the problem is that volumes of the market decreased, because lots of people lost their jobs everywhere. So, and speaking about our situation, we are not investing in the people who are not paying back. That's why default rate in Aventus is extremely low. And what we see now, that the problem is to find right customers. And the problem is that the market decreased significantly. So what we are doing now is just trying to find new customers for our services in markets we are in. And this is not easy task, by the way. So I can say, speaking about Aventus situation, what will happen actually? Most likely volumes will be smaller than before. This is true. But on the other hand, I think that most likely profitability will be higher still, because we refused with startups projects like leasings, I told you. And these leasings took actually lots of attention and money, potentially. So now when we'll be concentrated on markets we are in and we are profitable, I know that our profitability will be higher. But speaking about volumes and the sustainable growth, this is issue actually. Most likely will be bigger than we were at the end of 2019, at the end of this year, but definitely will be smaller than we predicted a year ago. This is also true. But this is not our fault. This is just reality. We definitely don't want to invest in loans. We are not sure they will come back.
Yeah, I think this is a good decision, yeah.
Simple, easy, nothing new, I would say, right?
Yeah. So what do you think about the development of the peer-to-peer industry overall in this crisis? I mean, you know the other companies, and unless all these problems and challenges, for me, everything looks quite stable despite two other investments on the stock market or something else. What do you think, what we can expect in the next months from this industry?
I think this crisis was a very, very extremely good exam, actually, for stability of all the market, right? And as you know, not all passed this exam, passed at all or passed in good way, right? So this was a good, definitely test for stability of all the market. But thanks God, actually, majority of the companies passed this exam, right? Better or worse, but still they're alive, and this is very good. So actually, the model proved itself that this is definitely a live model, right? So I definitely believe in this industry. Actually, the volumes of this industry are not too high in comparison with banking deposits volumes. This is also true. But like an effective and quite safe investment for investors, this is definitely a very good way. Actually, speaking about myself, I can say that all of money I have, I invested in PeerBerry. I have for a living, like, I don't know, 5K maybe maximum, because everything I have, I invested. By the way, I want to say for investors, and Arunas can prove it. Before this crisis, nobody knows what will be there, right? And honestly saying, inside of myself, I was thinking, maybe I need to take money from PeerBerry, right? But it was only for 1 minute, thought. Later on said, sorry, I am CEO of the biggest loan originator. What are you thinking to do? So I left everything there. All in. In case of problems, I would lose absolutely everything, and my family will be just poor with zero. You understand? This is definitely true. So this also show how I believe in this industry and how I believe in PeerBerry and Aventus. You understand me?
Okay, so you have a lot of risk in your investments, definitely.
Everything, all in, like in pocket, I don't know. But this is true. But this also shows how I believe and how I trust the system, company, and so on. If I wouldn't trust, I definitely choose like some alternative investments. For instance, I don't know, people from outside, they're like thinking that you're crazy, you need to invest in several places. This is safe, and you need to think about your family and so on. But I believe in what I do every day.
Arunas, what about your crisis investments? Where do you invest, just for my interest?
I just thinking that investors will also become more careful after this crisis, and will choose more carefully platforms where to invest. Actually, we prove how strong was PeerBerry during this crisis. So I think that we can trust in our platform, in our risk management, in our loan originators and partners. So, and I also investing only in PeerBerry. So my all savings, so everything, yeah, working smoothly. And I don't really have any ideas to withdraw money, let's say, on this crisis from PeerBerry. So I believe in this company. I believe in our loan originators and such big groups, profitable groups of our partners, and also in management of these partners.
Did you also try some of the other platforms, or never?
To be honest, just for testing, for sure. I had some money, but really small amounts. But I think that all heads of other platforms testing and other platforms to be to know everything, how it's working, what's good, what is wrong, and etc.
Yeah.
No, but what I like about, I would say, P2P industry, not about only PeerBerry, right? What I see personally from my side, right? I get an income every month, right? So when I invest a part, no, honestly saying, in my situation, a biggest majority of income I invest back, right? But you know, when you're investing every day, like not every month, I would say, right? In like P2P, not necessarily PeerBerry, right? You know, at the end of the day, in a year, you collect quite significant amount of money, you know, because you are collecting money, you're not using for your life with money, right? Plus you are earning with quite serious interest, right? So, you know, I was really surprised at the end of the year, in a year after investing, how much money I collected, by the way, you know, I'm seriously. So I definitely love this way of investments, like individual, not like a CEO of Aventus, by the way. But speaking about other investors, you know, I know situation of Aventus, I know situation of PeerBerry, so there is no like doubt about it, right? But for other investors, most likely, it's better, of course, to put money not at one place. Definitely, they need to split between several platforms. Of course, need to analyze. But also, what I see that amount of average amount of investment is very low, by the way, almost, right? It's
yeah, it's approximately 2,000 euros at the moment. Yes.
No, mine personally is one of the biggest, I would say, currently because of the strategy. But this is a good way, of course, to splitting money between several platforms. And, you know, at the end of the day, you earn quite good money. This is also true. I mean, that's why most likely you are also using P2P like way of like
Yes.
investing, right?
Yes, I also recommend to split the investment over several platforms, not necessarily over 15 or 20, but if you have 5 or 6 or 7 very good platforms and you diversify your money into good platforms, I think it's a good way. Yeah. Absolutely. But for me, peer-to-peer is only a very small part of my portfolio. It's around 10 to 15%. But now in the crisis, I could see how stable it is compared to the stock market, for example. So even in a crisis, I was also invested on Groupier. Even with the loss of the money of Groupier, it's still positive, everything. So it's a really good idea in a crisis to don't withdraw every money from peer-to-peer platforms, because it's also a good addition if you are focused on the stock market to keep the whole portfolio stable. This is everything what I recommend to my community.
You're absolutely right. No, what I also would recommend, of course, you need to look to loan originators and platform itself. You know, in our case, when we speak about company who is 11 years profitable, right? So this is a little bit different story. And when you speak not about startup, right? And about like company with quite clear history. So, but still, any investor need to choose their way of investments. This is true, and definitely split. Not, you know, everything can happen. So it's better to split between several companies, maybe bigger one, I would suggest, most likely, who has kind of track history. So
that's interesting to hear from you. What are let's say the 3 most important factors to choose one peer-to-peer platform? You mentioned the track record. What else?
This is, difficult question because no, to be honest, I'm not like to go deep in analyzing of competitors. Honestly saying, I mean, we are working with one platform, we are happy with it, have good results. But I would say maybe new platform could be a kind of risk. This obviously, right? Not like if new bank comes, you also not invest all the money in there, right? On your company and stock exchanges, so on. So maybe you need to be more careful about these new players. But on the other hand, I think that still could be new platforms with really like reliable loan originators and so on. Every case should be like studied separately here.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you for answering all the questions, and I hope we generated some value for the community. Maybe some last words from you guys. Maybe you can tell us why it is a good idea to invest in peer-to-peer lending in a critical economic phase like we have at this moment. Who wants to start?
I actually think that it's a really good way to earn passive income, because interest rates is, I would say, quite high, because approximately you can earn on P2P around 13-14% per annual interest income. If we compare it with the banks or other investment products, it is with other investment products is less risk. With banks, you can earn at the moment 0 or maybe negative interest rates. So I would say that it's a really good idea to get some extra money, and it's really easy to use, I guess.
Yes, I would say that's true for most of the platforms.
Yeah.
So what about you?
Also, I would say difficult something to add here. This is a good way to have like kind of alternative investments still, right? I'm not sure if it's the best way to invest really significant amount of money, right? Or all the money you have, right? In one portfolio platform like me, right? But, I'm insider. My situation is different, right? So still you shouldn't maybe invest all the money you have definitely in this industry, because still like Groupier case showed. But a part of your money or investments you definitely need to spend here, because again, this is much more stable than stock exchange for sure, right? Even maybe more stable than property market, because in this crisis now we see that property prices go down as well, right? But P2P go up, as you see, with interest rates, and quite stable, by the way. Your case shows this in the best way as well. So, and again, stability of this industry is already proven by this really serious crisis, So this also shows that definitely it has really bright future, and I believe it.
Okay. So thanks, guys, for the interview. And see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. Bye.